Great panic arose at a large museum yesterday morning when alarms went off all throughout the building. The person initiating this bizarre chain of events was a local boy who initially seemed harmless to bystanders. But things got heated when the small child presented a uniformed guard with this mysterious note. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. "Where are your parents, little boy?" the uniformed guard asked. But the child did not answer and simply pressed the note he held in his hand firmly into George's hand. A frown appeared on the guard's face as he opened his hand and unfolded the note inside. And then things happened quickly. George read the note intently and quickly felt a rush of panic shoot through his body. "What the hell?" he uttered softly to himself before folding the paper back up. He looked up again and tried to make eye contact with the boy, who suddenly seemed to have disappeared into thin air. The normally calm and collected museum guard tried to keep his cool so he wouldn't cause a major panic, but as his eyes darted across the crowd of people without being able to spot the child, he realized that he had no choice. With swift help from his colleagues, George managed to clear the main hall. Guests formed orderly lines and exited the museum under the false pretense of a fire drill. But now, an even more important task arose. The boy needed to be found, and the seriousness of the note needed to be verified. George started looking where he had last seen the boy his guard post. George ran past the last few exiting people, trying to catch a glimpse of the young boy anywhere. He asked his colleagues about it. Someone had to have seen him, right? But it all seemed futile. Until George's chanting echoed through the staircase and initially provided no response. The museum was emptied out. Maybe the child left with the panicked guests. But right before George turned around and left the concrete corridor, he heard a soft, high-pitched voice. "I'm here," it said. George hurried up the stairs in the direction of the voice and eventually found the kid on the 3rd floor. The boy sat on the staircase with his head between his legs, looking very scared and overwhelmed by the situation. George knelt beside the young boy and immediately asked him about the note. "How did you get this note?" It's clearly the handwriting of an adult. His tone was gentle, but it also had a clear note of urgency because the message in the paper was very dear and needed to be resolved quickly if true. George's concern grew. If his parents were behind this and simply used their son as a messenger, the message's validity became much more serious. This proved that it wasn't just an innocent, childish joke anymore. George used his walkie-talkie to alert his colleagues immediately and grabbed the boy's hand to search for his suspicious parents. "I will help you find your parents," he said reassuringly, trying to make the boy feel as comfortable as possible with his presence. George needed the boy's full cooperation because the museum was massive and his parents could have been hiding anywhere. "Where did you last see them?" George asked. A slight smile appeared on the boy's face when George promised to help him find his parents. The guard followed the boy up the stairs, but the further they ventured, the more George's nerves began to creep up on him. They cleared multiple rooms, and every time, they found no trace of the two individuals. A sudden voice emerged from the darkness in the corridor. "Did we hear that correctly? Is everyone gone? Can we talk freely?" it sounded. George was startled and looked confused, trying to pierce the darkness. Who did these voices belong to? His question was answered when the people suddenly appeared. George's mind was working overdrive, but excited shouts suddenly interrupted his thoughts. "Mom! Dad!" the boy yelled as he ran over to them. The guard immediately shifted gears. "Are you the parents?" he asked to be sure. When they nodded, George felt relieved but also nervous because this encounter could quickly become dangerous. As expected, the relief part was short-lived, and tension instantly mounted as the boy's parents needed to provide answers if they didn't want to be arrested on the spot. George pulled out the note. "What is the meaning of this? How do you know? What is going on?" he demanded. His gentle tone was gone. They wanted to raise awareness of the situation without causing panic or suspicion, so they used their son. "We would not have been able to get close enough to any of the guards to hand over a note discreetly," the father explained, but Lewis was able to, the mother added. The more the parents talked, the more confused George became, but he had to give them some credit, as he would have certainly stopped a grown-up from getting close, and he had let Lewis walk right up to him. But he wanted to know what was happening and why they had written the note. George looked at the note and read it aloud. "Evacuate the building now. There's a serious threat. Everyone is in danger." The guard was trained to take something like this seriously and immediately acted on it. The parents explained they visited today to enjoy the beautiful building and learn about its history like any other tourist. However, as they walked through the corridors, they eventually saw someone very suspicious. He was busy at one of the cabinets, but he didn't look like an employee, the father said. The parents looked at George as if this explanation was enough. "Someone left something inside the building. Don't you understand? "You have to come with us now and see for yourself," the mother yelled, panicked. The guard slowly realized where this could be going and understood why the parents were in such a hurry. George turned pale the moment the little doors opened. He gulped and couldn't believe what he was looking at. This was the worst-case scenario. He was looking at a bomb counting down until its explosion, and they only had 45 minutes left before it would. They had to act fast. George's intense training for the job paid off, as he immediately knew what to do. He called the bomb squad and explained the situation quickly. When that was fixed, he had a moment to breathe and realized they were lucky. The building was already empty in case the bomb squad didn't make it, but at that moment, he realized the building wasn't completely empty yet. The family was still right behind him, with an active bomb. Getting them to safety was his first priority. He escorted them out of the building and waited anxiously for the bomb squad to arrive so he could instruct them. A colleague of George walks toward him and says they scoured the video footage, but nothing suspicious was seen. But as he spoke to his colleagues, he soon realized that none of them had seen anything, and the panic had only made it easier for the culprit to escape. He scoured the video footage, but nothing suspicious could be seen. He got away, a colleague's side, but George refused to believe that. He rewatched all the security footage again and again, becoming more frustrated each time. The guard was worried that if they didn't catch the culprit, something like this would happen again in the near future. There had to be something they could use, and that's when the parents shared something. "That's him." "I'm sure," the mother suddenly exclaimed as she pointed at a vague figure on the screen. George looked at it and became incredibly frustrated. This wasn't a recognizable image. If they wanted to find the person responsible, they had to get a useful image, but there was still hope. Now that they had found the person responsible on the footage, George could look at the entire video again and see if the person appeared more recognizable elsewhere. Moments later, he got the exact right frame. The guard took a picture and immediately went to the police, followed by the family. When they arrived at the police station, George told them exactly what had happened and was happy that the family had followed him. The parents told them their perspective, and the police could immediately start a case. A few days later, George was reading the newspaper before going to work, and he read something that immediately made his day. "Government building bomber caught" stood in big letters on the front page. He had never read an article that fast in his life, and a wide smile appeared on his face. The article detailed that the police had found the culprit thanks to camera footage of the building. The culprit was a known government hater and wanted to strike them at their core. Luckily, his plan was thwarted by anonymous heroes who notified the guards. George chuckled as he knew exactly who those heroes were.